Hey everyone, how's it going? Matthew Kadish here, author, evil genius, and certified criminally insane. Going off that, I want to talk today about the Netflix original series Mindhunter. If you guys haven't seen this show, you need to go watch it right now because this show is really, really cool. It's basically a TV series based off of the book Mindhunter by the guy who started the behavioral science unit of the FBI. These are the people who basically created criminal profiling and started tracking down serial killers. They were the first people to kind of classify this type of killer and take steps to not only track them down but also prevent new ones from cropping up or having a big reign of terror. And the show is executive produced by David Fincher, who directed Fight Club and The Game and Girl with the Dragon Tattoo. Lots of like really iconic crime movies, I guess you'd say, or dark movies. But Fincher has always been a really talented director. I've really liked his stuff over the years. And this is his big foray into Netflix original series. And the entire show looks like a David Fincher movie. It's lit the same way. It has that kind of like dull gray gunmetal hue to it. The colors are really muted. If anything, this is like a TV version of his movie Zodiac, if you've ever seen Zodiac. Zodiac's kind of a, love it or hate it type movie. It's about the Zodiac killer, but it's really more about the characters who are kind of looking into those killings. So it's not a gripping like crime drama. It's more of a character study. When I first saw it in theaters, I was kind of lukewarm to it, but upon further viewing on home video and stuff like that, I feel like the movie has gotten stronger over time. And Mindhunter is kind of like an extension of that. Now, for those of you who aren't familiar with the series, you might be tempted to think that this show is like Netflix's version of Criminal Minds. And if you've ever watched Criminal Minds, it's a really good show, but they've got like a killer of the week format where every episode it's a different serial killer, and the team flies out to wherever and tries to track this killer down using profiling methods. And it's a good show, and it's thrilling. But Mindhunter is not that. Mindhunter has very little to do with solving crime or tracking down serial killers. It's actually a show about the early days of the behavioral science unit and these two FBI agents who kind of got the bright idea that, hey, why don't we start interviewing people who've been convicted of terrible crimes to try to figure out what makes them tick so we can prevent crime like theirs in the future. And this was a really radical concept back in the early or late 70s when the show takes place. And you see that in the show where they get a lot of pushback from the FBI because the FBI is like, hey, we're called in when things get bad and then we take down these criminals. We don't want to understand these scumbags. We just want to put them away. But these two kind of new agents, one in particular, basically say, hey, why don't we try to understand what makes these guys tick, what created them, what drove them to commit their crimes, so we can spot troubling behavior and prevent stuff like this from happening again. Or when stuff like this does happen, we have a system in place that allows us to track these guys down and apprehend them as quickly as possible. And it's a very intriguing concept. And so basically you have this show that's about talking with serial killers as opposed to hunting them down, like a show like Criminal Minds is based off of. So that's what's really intriguing about this. Now the first episode is kind of slow. It sets up a lot of stuff for the entire 10 episode season. So after the first episode you might not be hooked, but stick with it for at least 2 episodes, because by the end of episode 2 I was all in. I was like, yes, this is an awesome show. I'm so intrigued by this. I want to see more. Because it really is just a show about 2 guys traveling the country talking to crazy people. But there's something just so inherently captivating about it, because the guys that they got to play the serial killers, to play like the psychopaths in this show, do a really amazing job of sucking you in, because each one of them has a kind of subtle menace to them, but at the same time, as they start opening up about their crimes and as these FBI guys start figuring them out, like figuring out what turned them into such terrible people, you begin to get kind of like sucked into their characters. You begin to get captivated with these serial killers, just like these FBI guys are becoming captivated with them as they study them. So that, combined with the constant struggle that these guys have to face from the internal government bureaucracy of studying the criminally insane makes the show very, very captivating and intriguing. And it just gets more so as the show goes along, because occasionally they will help out law enforcement, local law enforcement, solve crimes that are just above and beyond the local law enforcement's pay grade, because they're done by these organized serial killers that these guys are interviewing, and they take the stuff that they learned from their interviews and start applying it to these local cases, and start figuring out how to track down the people who are actually responsible for these horrific crimes. And it's very fascinating to see this evolution of criminal profiling come along within this show. Now, even though this show is based off of true stories, it is a fictionalized account. The two FBI agents are fictional characters, and the order of events and stuff like that has been changed up, and so on and so forth. And there's also this kind of subplot with the BTK killer, bind, torture, kill, who is just kind of like beginning to emerge as the series goes on, even though like the paths with BTK and the behavioral science unit never really cross, at least in this season. But we see like the kind of like how we see the beginning of the behavioral science unit, we see the beginning of the BTK killer kind of peppered in throughout this series. And in addition to that, we also get to see some very interesting character development with the two main FBI agents, where we get to see one of the FBI relationship with his girlfriend, and they're very much the opposite of one another. He's very kind of conservative and upright and traditional, and she's kind of like a hippie counterculture type chick. And she and him kind of butt heads a lot, but he gains a lot of insight from her kind of challenging him. And we also see the other FBI agent and his marriage and his issues with a troublesome adopted son that he has. And these things just kind of go to flesh out these characters and make you care about them more than just their jobs, which I think also really strengthens the series. My only real complaint about Mindhunter is the finale, episode 10, where I feel like it felt like half a season by the time the series was over. There is going to be a season 2, but I felt like the ending for this season could have been much stronger. It ended on kind of a confusing note, and also kind of a dark note, which I guess isn't too out of the realm for a series like this, because it is a dark series when you're dealing with like deviant killers like serial killers and thrill killers and stuff like that. Yeah, the ending could have been a lot stronger, in my opinion, because things just kind of go off the rails towards the end of the series for these characters that we've come to care about, and I kind of felt like I wanted to see them have a win towards the end of this series, but I guess we'll have to wait for season 2 to come out to get something more along those lines, because it really does feel like season 2 is going to be the second half of the first season as opposed to a continuation of the story from the season. So I am looking forward to season 2. If you haven't checked out Mindhunters yet, go on Netflix, look at it, watch the whole thing, binge the crap out of this show. It's really, really good, especially if you like dark crime dramas and you're a fan of David Fincher. This show is gonna put you over the top. I think Fincher directed 4 episodes himself, so you get like a lot of really good direction and writing in this show, and really good character development. If you're a writer and you want to know how to develop characters, just look at how the 2 FBI agents in this show are sketched out as you go along. And also they bring in like a female academic at a certain point, someone who is a psychologist and helps them out. She gets a lot of characterization as well. So if you just look at how characters are developed in this show, you'll see character development done right, and it's actually really fascinating. But the most fascinating part is how every serial killer they interview is very different and very intriguing in his own right. So they actually establish these serial killers as characters very quickly, and they do such a good job that you're instantly kind of captivated by them. So this is a great show to study character development if you're a storyteller, like whether you're a filmmaker or a writer or what have you. If you watch Mindhunter, you're going to see firsthand how real character development is done right. So I hope you guys like this video. I would definitely recommend Mindhunter if you haven't watched it yet. And I will catch you in the next video. See you later.